Okay, bishop to e5 and checkmate. Oh, I did not see you there. I was just checkmating the opponent using the pattern known as the doubly disambiguated bishop capture checkmate. The rarest mate in chess, but don't worry, you'll probably never see this in your own games. What you will see, though, are the other checkmate patterns we'll cover in this video. Starting with number 1, epaulette checkmate. The king is in the last rank defended by 2 rooks, which sounds good and all until queen goes to e6 and the king has no retreating squares to its side. Number 2, killbox mate. This checkmate pattern occurs when a rook and queen work together to checkmate the enemy king in a 3x3 box shape, from which the enemy king cannot escape. Number 3, swallowtail mate. The king here is brave. He has 2 pawns behind him ready to march into battle. Then the queen goes in front of the king, and now there is nowhere to go, blocked by its own pieces once again. Number 4, the triangle mate. This checkmate looks like a triangle. The king is in g6, one tip of the triangle, the other tip is the rook on h7, and the final tip is queen going e7 to finish the deal. Number 5, the railroad mate. Now this checkmate requires a bit of toying around with the opponent. Let's assume both of our pieces start on the 3rd rank. To checkmate, we have to build a railroad. Rook h5, queen f5, rook h7, queen f7. Number 6, the max lange mate. This checkmate pattern combines the powers of a queen and a bishop, like this one here. First, we check the king with the queen, then with the bishop, and then a discovered check. For this mate to be called max lange, the queen has to deliver the finishing blow. Number 7, balestra mate. This is a bit harder to find, but it's deadly in normal games. Look at this position. We want to finish the job in 3 moves. First, we sacrifice the rook. Opponent takes with pawn, and then we check the king. The bishop and the queen cover every square except e8. Then we go bishop c6. It doesn't look like it, but when you check the squares covered, the king really doesn't have anywhere to go. Number 8, bucking bronco mate. You probably didn't guess from the name, but this is a checkmate given by the queen-knight pair. The queen holds the king down in the corner, and the knight gives the finishing blow. But when the king is stuck in the last row, and its escape square is blocked by its own pieces, then we have number 9, the sneaky stallion mate. Number 10, Damiano's mate. This pattern happens when the queen delivers the checkmate through the 7th rank and from the edge of the board. Look at this position. First, we sacrifice the rook to g8 so the king is positioned all nice and well. Then we check with the queen on the edge of the board, and then checkmate by going to the 7th rank. Number 11, Lolly's checkmate. This is one of the most common checkmating patterns. Here, the queen lands the final blow against a castled king while protected by the pawn. Number 12, back rank mate. As the name suggests, it involves a back rank, and you guessed it, a rook. This king here doesn't know that having 3 pawns in front of him isn't always a good idea. Matter of fact, most chess players have trauma of the rook going to the last rank and ending the game. Number 13, the lawnmower mate. Imagine if the board was grass and rooks. We're lawnmowers. You get the king on the side of the board and block both rows using 2 rooks or queens. Number 14, the h-file mate. This checkmate is usually carried out along the h-file against the castled king, with the rook or queen. The queen goes h1 covering every square possible and protected by the bishop. But if the king is on the side of the board, and it gets mated the same way with one of its pieces blocking the escape square, then we have number 15, opera mate. Number 16, the Mayette's mate. Imagine back rank mate, but the king is close enough to stop the attack. But if we have a bishop on b5 protecting our rook, then the checkmate is inevitable. Number 17, Reddy's mate. A famous chess player of the 19th century, Richard Reddy did a very cool checkmate. This was the position. First, he sacrificed the queen. Then he double-checked the king with the bishop and the rook, with only 2 possible escapes left, both resulting in a checkmate. And that's where the name of this mating pattern came from. Number 18, Pillsbury mate. The black king is surrounded by all these pieces, but it doesn't have one in front of it. This is unfortunate because the bishop controls the corner square of the castled king, while the rook goes g1 to deliver a mate on the open file. But if we still have an open file and the checkmate is instead done by the bishop, then we have number 19, Morphy's mate. But if the bishop controls the escape squares while the king is in the edge of the board, blocked by its own pieces in an open file in which the rook goes h1 to checkmate, then we have number 20, Greco mate. But if the rook is doing the blocking of squares with the king blocked by its own pieces, and instead of the bishop, we have a knight that can deliver a checkmate, then we have number 21, corner mate. But if the king is trapped and the knight controls 2 important flight squares, and the other one is blocked by one of its own pieces, with the checkmate being delivered by the rook, then we have number 22, Anastasia's mate. You get the point. There are a lot of attack patterns involving rooks and knights, like number 23, the Arabian, involving no pieces of the opponent at all. Number 24, Vukanik's mate. This checkmate is carried out by 3 pieces: a rook that deals the finishing blow, the pawn that protects the rook, and the knight that blocks the escape routes. But if there is another piece in the mix, and it blocks one of the escape squares, like this one here, then we have number 25, Hookmate. Number 26, Anderson's mate. This mate, I believe, is a bit rarer to see in chess because you need to have a protected pawn on the 7th rank. At that point, most players would just make a queen instead of looking for checkmate patterns. But while the king is stuck in the 8th row, the rook delivers the finishing blow while protected by the pawn. Number 27, Diagonal Corridor mate. One of the most humiliating checkmates in my opinion. When the king is blocked by its own pieces, a bishop can suddenly become a deadly weapon. For example, bishop b4 checkmates the king by covering g7 and h8. But if we have a double bishop side to side, which is a very common checkmate pattern, then we have number 28, a bombardier's mate. But if the bishop form like a pair of scissors, then we have number 29, Bowden's mate, named after Samuel Bowden. Number 30, smothered mate. This is one of the most popular checkmates in chess. You make this checkmate into a YouTube short and everyone will lose their minds. It happens when a lone knight checkmates the enemy king whose squares are all blocked by its own pieces. Number 31, suffocation mate. I'm noticing a pattern that knight checkmates have a worrisome name, but when a bishop covers the escape squares, a knight can swoop in, like here in h6, and deliver a deadly checkmate. But if the piece delivering the checkmate is instead a bishop, while the knight holds the important squares, then we have number 32, collaboration mate. Why did the name suddenly turn normal? Number 33, Blackburn's mate. This mating pattern happens when there are over 3 minor pieces delivering the checkmate. The order doesn't really matter, so a bishop to e5 does the job. Number 34, Cozio's mate. It is also known as the dovetail mate since the arrangement of the pieces visually resemble a dove's tail, like the diagonal corridor, but just involving a queen very close to the king. This is it. There are countless checkmating patterns in chess, but most of them really don't have a specific name. However, you now have fallen for the end of the video, mate, and have to watch this next video to get better at chess. And you have to subscribe. Sorry, I don't make up the rules. Bye now.